This is hands down the most powerful indicator combo I've ever found. Look at this chart and this indicator right here. Every time it shows up, the market makes a sharp reversal. Not once, not twice, but over and over again. I've been trading reversals for the past 5 years, and these indicators make spotting high probabilities trades simple and repeatable. Using just this strategy, I've made over $5,000 in the last 20 days trading only 90 minutes a day, 4 days a week. And once you learn how to use these two indicators, along with the entry checklist I'll show you, you'll be able to confidently find trades, whether you're scalping the open of the market for just 60 minutes or swing trading overnight. Now, what's gonna make this a profitable strategy for you is focusing on the 4 key pillars of what make you a profitable trader. The first one is simple strategies are the easiest. You don't need to be trading 10 different indicators, trying to capture every move in the market. Instead, focus on one simple setup that you can consistently repeat every day. Now we'll go over tools that will help you instantly spot where to focus on for these high probability trades and what areas to completely avoid. These are the same tools I use every day myself to be able to trade only 60 to 90 minutes a day. And secondly, you do not need a 90% win rate. Just looking at my results right here, I only have just over a 50% win rate over the last 20 days. But what you can see is I make way more money for my winners compared to my losers. That is one of the biggest factors to become profitable trading is focusing on risk reward, cutting your losers and letting your winners become big. Don't get married to one specific trade. Understand there's always another opportunity the next day. And doing that allows you to focus on the big picture of making consistent money over the long term versus a single day. And the third thing is focusing on high probability setups only. I've only taken a handful of trades over the last 3 weeks, but because they are such high probability setups, I'm able to make good money from when they work out in my favor. If you try and take too many trades, it's way easier to make mistakes and lose money. I lost money for so long trading, and what really turned the corner for me was not trying to be profitable with a ton of different strategies, instead focusing on becoming profitable with just one simple setup, only taking one pattern and one trading style because it allowed me to master one thing. And the last one is tracking everything you do. Most people lose because they are reacting to the market versus following one simple strategy, and being able to track everything you do helps you master and improve that over time. So now let me give you an overview of the 2 types of ways you can trade this strategy. Either day trading for 60 to 90 minutes in the morning or swing trading it over larger time frames. That's the awesome part about this strategy is you can make it fit any schedule you want. And so the first thing about this strategy that makes it so simple but high probability is focusing on the key swings in the market and those extremes that it creates to allowing you to know where the market's likely to reverse later down the road. And so for day trading, a lot of the time I like to draw these zones off of a 15-minute chart. I'll post a video up here that goes more in depth on how to draw those levels manually if you want to, but I also have an indicator that automatically draws them for you on the support or resistance side. Now, the next biggest factor in this is using another indicator that helps you identify when a move is overextended. What I realized over looking at charts year after year is when the market just gets really overextended, it's really likely to have a pullback of some kind. And so I realized that, well, instead of trying to predict when the market's going to have a massive move like this, why don't I just wait for this massive move to happen? And then I look to reverse that move. And so what this indicator does is it tells you based on these either green or red boxes is when the market makes an overextended move in one direction. And so the idea is if you combine these two indicators, by seeing that the market be overextended into a key area where the market's likely to reverse based on supply and demand zones, well, it makes it a high probability to reverse lower. And so this combo together helps knock out 90% of the noise in the market, allows you to just focus on the areas that are important and high probability to trade, which is extremely helpful for trading in a short amount of time, but still being able to capture important moves in the market. And this is really half of the puzzle. The second part is knowing when to actually click buy. And then the whole idea is going into a smaller time frame chart. You see it come up into this level. This is on a 1 minute chart. You see a couple few key patterns, like here's a double top. You enter in on a trade and you capture this massive move down where you are risking a small amount to make a massive amount. And that's the power of using these on a larger time frame chart, like a 15-minute chart, and then zooming in to a smaller time frame chart. And the big key is knowing when to actually click that buy button. That is honestly probably one of the hardest things in trading because it's so easy to get wrong. Now this looks very similar for if you're just trying to do it more of a swing trading style. Now I highly recommend doing both if you can, because it allows you to just get more trades basically. Now the first step is basically, again, the same thing. All we're looking for is, well, this is a 60-minute chart now, is looking for those key reversal zones, either drawn yourself or with the indicator I'll provide you. And then as well, using this indicator to spot, okay, boom, there's a big move up. I need to pay attention now that I've seen this big move up, come into this area and start to slow down. And then you can capture a massive move down. And this is after the market is actually closed into the overnight session. And that's the cool part about this, is it allows you to trade any time of the day. You know, if you miss this big move up during the opening market hours, you can still come in here on a slower time frame chart. This is now a 15-minute chart for entering in on a trade, risk a smaller amount, capture 3 or 4 times your risk, which is that big key factor becoming profitable over the long term. Now, a big thing though is knowing the difference between when to take a trade and when to enter in on these and when to skip it. That is one of the hardest things about trading that you have to really master, and these two tools will really help with that. There's a few other patterns that I think are very important for you to pay attention to. Also, I highly recommend getting this trading platform I'm using. It's called NinjaTrader. It's super powerful, has tons of indicators, tons of custom indicators. I'll leave a link for it in the description. Now that was all in hindsight, but let me walk you through a real trade where I made over $2,800 while I was asleep. This is the potential of using this strategy all the time. And of course, the two biggest things that we want to see is we want to be using that indicator to show us that the market is overextended. All these green boxes are saying that this is really overextended to the upside. And then secondly, is it was trading right here. This is looking at a daily chart, is it had just come up to this area where the market was likely to reverse. And so based on hitting those two big factors, it put me in focus mode of, okay, I need to focus on this and jump in onto a trade. And so I jumped in at this price right here and captured a big swing down overnight. And this is the most important thing when doing these, is having specific stop losses and targets. You can see I put a target for it to essentially just give this big move back up right here. And I have a second one down here if it really starts to move overnight. And so it moves down, I get out half of the trade while I'm still asleep at 4 a.m. And then I wake up and I see where it's trading. It started looking like it's starting to slow down. And so I essentially close out here for the rest of the trade, closing out, totaling about $2,800. And going back to my journal, it was this trade right here where I made over $2,800 on that oil short. Now, something super important is you can't just blindly be seeing these lines that come across from the indicator and shorting or reversing because you think it's going to reverse. if you look at this chart right here, this was happening pretty much at the same time as this move. This is a massive move up, and it's producing a ton of overextension signals. And the problem though is, if you see, it never reverses. You could have been trying to bet against this move the whole time and lost a ton of money as it had this massive trend up. And so when something is super strong and is having such a strong move, you have to wait for it to slow down. You can't just see this signal show up and bet against it. You want to wait for that clear indication from it's either coming into a big resistance zone from that other indicator, or looking at this chart, you can see it's starting to go sideways and slow down. And that's when maybe you want to start thinking about looking for those reversals. Now, let me walk you through my kind of final entry checklist to jump into these trades. Really knowing when to click buy is probably the hardest thing in trading. And so I want to show you through this more day trading example now. Super short time frame. This is on a 1 minute chart, this trade now. This is during the first 30 minutes of the market open. The market opens 7:30 my time in the morning. And I want to help answer the last few key questions about executing this strategy effectively. And so the first thing, of course, is using those two indicators is to see that we're coming up into a key resistance zone. Again, you can draw these yourself based on that other video, or I do have an indicator that does it pretty well automatically. And the second thing, of course, is this move was overextended based on the other overextension indicator. So you have those two keys showing up, showing you that this has a high probability to reverse. That is the biggest confidence booster when it comes to trade. And this is what honestly helps me focus on the process as much as possible, is always making sure that you have those two keys in place before you even sit down and consider taking a trade. It helps you just avoid all the noise when it comes to trading. And so that's honestly the first thing in the checklist, is having a key reversal zone and having an overextension indicator signal come up. The next thing is having a key reversal pattern. What I like to do is look for either a double top or a head and shoulders, or even in this case, it did essentially a fail breakout here where it broke above the previous extreme high, got a lot of people in excited thinking it was going to go higher, and then it reversed. And so this candlestick right here gave me a ton of confidence. And then the final confirmation was that it had this little pullback here and then push lower with this big candlestick, confirming a lot of momentum to the downside. And that is where I essentially entered in on my trade and then used my risk reward calculator tool here to put my stop loss up here and target a certain amount of risk. You want to try and keep your risk the same every time. And then as this moves in my favor, I slowly move my stop losses down. And usually the initial target I have for these trades is if it gives back up that overextended move. But you always want to try and let it run a little bit more just in case it's going to keep going farther. So this trade right here had a pretty big spike down, and I closed out right here for pretty much $2,000 in under 15 minutes in the morning. Now, if you want to get these two indicators that make it super simple to know where to focus on and spot these key areas of reversal, you can get them in the link in the description below this video. And if you want an even bigger tutorial on how to execute this scalping strategy every day consistently, more examples, even deeper explanation on this, check out this video right here.